Hello Bambu Lab peeps, hello AMS owners. Do you have an AMS that is failing in a particular slot, throwing errors such as AMF motor overload or something to that effect? The problem may be your AMS feeder, specifically the fact that you've worn out a groove in the input to the AMS feeder. Do you see it? It's a small groove in the plastic cone leading into your AMS. A healthy AMS feeder looks like this. A worn AMS feeder has a notch in it, like this. You would think that if this little cone on the top of this feeder was worn out, you would be able to just pop it off and pop a new one on. But no. You have to replace this entire component. And to do that, you have to open up your AMS, take the guts out, and remove the entire assembly just to replace this little feeder, even though you only need this little cone. Before we get started, I do need to tell you that, of course, the community has created 3D printable accessories to improve upon this design that you may be able to use to rectify this problem right now without doing this surgery and without replacing this part. However, we are going to go ahead and do it the Bambu way and replace this part. Here we go. Step 1 is to take this apart. I'm going to snap you into a quick video on how to do that. You will need to remove all your filaments and any updates such as desiccant upgrades from the front of the machine. As scary as this looks, we will focus only on the elements that we need to interact with to help keep it less intimidating. To start, we're going to remove 2 screws. Those of you who own an A1, the A1 came with an Allen key that fits. Go through your Allen keys and find one that fits. We will be removing 2 screws, one here and one here. If you have a simple pair of Allen keys and you're not sure which size you need, simply slide it in, feel for the bolt, and if it fits snugly inside the bolt, you know it's good. Using the tool of your choice, remove both screws. These are the 2 screws. Put them somewhere safe. I am about to tell you something insane. Do not put them back in. Leave these screws out. With those screws out, you will now see the entire inside of the AMS moves. However, we cannot remove it yet because of the Bowden tube. In order to release the Bowden tube, you need to look right there. This is a Bowden release button. Take your 2 fingers, slide it inside, and squeeze that button down. With that button depressed, grab the Bowden tube, pull it out, and remove it. With both screws and the Bowden tube removed, there is nothing else holding this entire section inside the AMS housing. We are now going to remove it by lifting it out this way. There are 2 wires that need to be disconnected underneath this section of the AMS. They are connected to a small circuit board and they are very short. Bring your finger in here, squeeze that button, and lift up. You are going to probably grind your fingers just a touch. Once you get to this point where the button has cleared the lid, you are on your way. We are going to very gently grab this center section and lift up, and as you do that, I want you to bring this lower section forward. This will expose the 2 wires connected to the small circuit board. Simply get your finger under there, pop it up, get your finger under here, and pop it up. At this point, your AMS is completely free. You can lift it up and take it out. Step 2 is to remove the bad feeder. Slip 2 fingers underneath this roller right here and just prop it up and pull it back and away from the AMS. turn your AMS over and look for the 2 screws that match your feeder. Our screws are hidden on the bottom underneath this jungle of wires. Go ahead and find your Allen key that fits and get these 2 screws out. But we're not done yet. We have 2 more screws for the feeder. One is right here, one is right here. If you have a different feeder, you will see that feeder will also have 2 screws of its own. So go ahead and find the screws that match your feeder. This one is mine, and here are the 2 screws right here. Once that second screw is off, you're going to feel something. What you're feeling is your feeder releasing from the AMS. However, we are not done yet. In order to fully free this feeder, you will need to disconnect its wiring. Follow the wire from your feeder to the board. This one is mine. I am just going to back it out. There is no glue on it. It is under a small clip down here. Just free it from that clip and you're good to go. You will now need to follow the Bowden tube from your feeder to the exit of the AMS. This one is mine. It goes to this port. I am simply going to squeeze this black coupler and pull out that Bowden tube. Go ahead and set your AMS aside. All of this just to replace this little piece right here. Go ahead and depress this little black coupler to remove the Bowden tube. I pressed this coupler right here. We will now free this top side from this bottom side. We will start right here. Next up is right here. Turn it over. Next up is right here. Look underneath here. The next screw is right there. In case you couldn't see, it was right here. With all these screws removed, you should be able to work this top section off the bottom section. Do be careful. There are some gears and there is a spring. There is also one wire right here that, so typical of our 3D printer friends, is glued on. We're not so worried about the connection because we are going to replace this component, but we are going to need this wire again. I'm just picking at it with my nails and then getting it off. It's not very strong. Don't be afraid. It's not some kind of permanent super glue. It's a soft rubbery glue that will give up if you work with it. And let's get this annoying piece out of here. They did not give us a new spring. We are going to need to reuse this spring. Gently pinch and pull to remove it and put it aside somewhere safe. Be sure to pay attention to the orientation. It only fits one way. Just joking, it's a spring. It's the same on both sides. With everything apart, our feeder is still in there. We have to get this little bar out that our feeder is riding on. This part is super tricky. If you look at the replacement part, you will see that the shaft does not go all the way through. It's 2 separate sections. What we need to do is separate this shell from this shaft and this shell from this shaft. We'll do that by removing this shaft, and we'll do that by pushing from this side the entire feeder to push this shaft out this hole. I have seen people comment that there has been a modification to this unit and this pin cannot be pushed all the way through. That is not the case. People simply have a misconception of what's happening here. We are going to use this Allen key not to push the pin, but to push the entire assembly, forcing this pin out. You need to find a small Allen key. This hole right here is not the whole hole. There is a hole inside the hole, and you want the Allen key to fit inside the hole, inside the hole. What we are basically doing here is putting the Allen key inside this piece right here and pushing the entire assembly. Hold it firmly, put the tool into the hole, keep your eye right here. You are going to feel like it may break, but it will not. You're going to firmly push, adding a little pressure, a little pressure, a little pressure, a little more pressure, a little more pressure. Ah, there it is. With it popped out like this, go ahead and push again. Did you see that? It popped a second time. If you look closely, you'll now see there's a section with teeth that grabs onto this hole, and then you'll see behind those teeth a smooth section. Grab a quality tool. For reference, I'm using a pair of pliers I got from Dollar Tree. Grab that piece and work it out. With that piece out, you'll see this just flops around, and you should be able to work it out of the other hole. Let's go ahead and install the new one. Before we put this thing back together, inspect all your gears and components. Make sure everything looks okay. That includes inspecting this gear right here and making sure it's not overly worn and it looks acceptable to you. If you see anything even remotely sus, just go ahead and replace the entire assembly and forget this nonsense. If everything looks okay, let's go ahead and finish up our surgery. Let's put this piece into this piece. Start with this gear facing you and this little bump also facing you. It will be down. Slide this little pin back into this little hole. There you go. It's in that first hole. Now, lie it on its side, and remember that annoying little pin. We will place it back in. Line it up with the hole. The rough, toothy section faces up. The smooth section goes in to the feeder right here. I'm going to use my Dollar Tree tool. I'm going to place the pin right there. And I'm going to push it down. You will feel this real light click as it goes into place. Before we move along, you may notice that your feeder, it doesn't fit. Can't get it forward enough. Don't panic. It's just your connector catching on this little piece of plastic. Just give it a little flex and work it past. Now you'll see your feeder funnel is where you expect it. Let's reintroduce the bottom here and that lovely cable with the glue all over it. We will go ahead and gently plug it back in to the new feeder funnel. We are not going to re-glue this connector. Remember that spring from earlier? Now is a good time to put it back in place. It fits in either direction. Turn it around, and we are now going to mate the top with the bottom. I'm going to keep my finger here while I do this. When doing this, this gear can be a royal pain in the neck because you are able to freely move it. Look inside your case and you will see a little notch. And you will see this yellow gear, keeping in mind that this gear needs to mate with this gear. We are going to place this gear not straight up at an angle where you see this connector going off this way so that it can butt up against this little notch in here, which helps guide it into place. When you have it right, the piece will slide easily into place. You may find it a little easier to pinch here slightly on this silver body as you slide over. The toughest part of putting this cover back on is this little spring. It's going to get all kinds of caught up on you. What I did was use a little Allen key and just kind of guide it into place as I position the cover to get this spring to kind of line up with this notch as opposed to just getting all bent up inside the gears. And once it's lined up, you can go ahead and finish your installation and you'll see it seated nicely on that little notch and it's doing what it's supposed to. While you're here, go ahead and put that first screw back. This one. One right here. One right here. And one right here. Your new feeder has been installed and your feeder funnel is good as new. Let's go ahead and put this back in. Don't forget to feed your wire through that hole. You may want to pick it up and give it a little help from the underside. And then just while pulling on that cable gently, guide your feeder into place. In order to keep this feeder from flopping around while you turn it upside down to put the screws back in, we'll go ahead and put this bar back on. Match the black gear to the yellow gear and simply line it up and pop it into place. With this roller in place, turn the AMS over. You will notice the bar helps keep the feeder in place. Go ahead and reconnect your cable. Go ahead and reconnect your Bowden tube. Push it down. Push it down. Go ahead and reinstall all 4 screws. And you're done. Turn it over, make sure everything looks good to you, and then put it back in the AMS. I'm going to snap you over to a previously recorded video to reassemble this. Take note of these 2 connectors. Here are the guts of the AMS. We will place it down like so, and then lean it forward and press it to the front. This part is very hard to coach or demonstrate. Each cable only fits 1 slot. Make sure you have the right cable. I like to give it a little bend downward. Place it over the slot, push it down with your thumb. Do the same with the second cable. Give it a little bend downward. Line it up with the slot. Give it a little push downward. They click in very gently. They're very small, pathetic cables. With those wires attached, grab the AMS, slide it forward while bringing the rear down. When you get to the button, it's going to catch on the lid. Support it with your other hand, depress the button, and work it behind that lid. Guiding it down behind the little rubber nipple. Somehow it will drop into place and you'll see the exit and the nipple are lined up You can now reinstall your Bowden tube, sliding it through the nipple and into that exit of the AMS. With everything back together, leave the 2 screws out so that you can do this in the future without having to remove them. This eliminates the chance of stripping the screw, leaving you stuck, unable to take your AMS apart. And there it is. We have replaced the AMS feeder funnel on our AMS feeder. Hopefully it went well for you and you paid attention, because you likely will be doing it again.